Hello guys, as someone pointed out, my last video about the legal conflict between Minijin and former ADOR employee was significantly shorter in English compared to Korean, and that is because in Korean I read the former employee's statements that she posted on her Instagram account, whereas in English I didn't. Why? Because I thought the video was getting too long, and honestly speaking, talking about workplace bullying and managing for over an hour is not that fun and tiring. But I was going to do a translation and reading anyways, so this video is about that. Okay, so as you know, the former ADOR employee made a separate Instagram account to raise her voice, right, about the issue. Especially after the Dispatch article that revealed what Minijin talked about the employee in a conversation with the former vice president separately. Okay, and she has posted like 10 slides. So we can only see like 3 posts on the Instagram account, although she from time to time makes updates through Instagram story updates. Okay, but in this video, I'm gonna talk about this post and that post. Okay, so here we go. I am the employee referred to as B in CEO Minijin's explanatory post on Instagram on July 31st, where I was called a crazy bitch and accused of suffering from mental illness. As Minijin mentioned in a conversation with Executive A on Kakao Talk, if that gets out, she'll just end up ruining herself. Does B have the guts for that? It's referring to this particular Kakao Talk message, where she said that, yes, I'm simply an ordinary employee, a regular person without much courage. The idea of standing against a seasoned star producer and CEO with decades in the entertainment industry, adept at handling press, was unimaginable to me. Even as I write this, I am extremely fearful. However, given that Minijin has publicly disclosed employee conversations claiming to clarify her innocence without any consent or notice to me, and continues to insist that her insults weren't directed at me, that the KakaoTalk messages were manipulated, and with numerous other lies, I cannot stay silent any longer. Having left the company without support from any media outlets or the 2 companies involved, I hope to clarify the facts and resolve misunderstandings with this somewhat lengthy statement. I appreciate your consideration in reading this entire message. So, brief context. The reason why she was quite enraged at Minijin at this point was because after a Dispatch article was released, Minijin came up with her own statement that she released through her Instagram account, and even attached the private conversations that she had with the former employee, former ADOR employee, right, without her consent, which we just heard from her, right. After leaving the company in April, both companies collided, like 2024 April. And I was investigated based purely on being a former employee under Minijin and Executive A. Media outlets contacted me about the issues I raised. Still, I declined interactions before now to avoid further complications from the ongoing legal disputes between Minijin and HYBE. When Dispatch released the article detailing the incidents, I was in shock. So, once again, this particular article released in July. I was in shock. The article's hurtful language immediately led me to grasp the context. Yes, yet I cross-checked the details multiple times to be sure before deciding to take this step. Before delving into specific matters, I'd like to express how, soon after I reported Executive A, both A and CEO Minijin began to intervene in the investigation process using insulting and degrading language against me. Gosh, I cannot imagine what she must have felt like, while reading this article, where she could see what Minijin, talked about herself in private conversations. That must have felt horrible. Let's see. Despite such behavior, I thought they might harbor some small sense of regret for their actions. As someone who had once been an ardent fan of Minijin, spending significant amounts in the Weverse New Jeans shop, and contributing earnestly to the ADOR team, even post-resignation, seeing my efforts trampled and betrayed was disheartening. Though Minijin declared that no one should suffer from the distortion and the manipulation of truth, ironically, she did exactly that by misconstruing and using private text sent after I left the company to her advantage. Yes, funnily enough, she said exactly that in her statements in response to the Dispatch article. All right, next page. Number 1, my experience at ADOR. Let me first explain my experience at ADOR. During my time working directly under Executive A, I endured not only inappropriate sexual remarks but also various forms of workplace bullying and unfair treatment, which led me to officially announce my intention to resign on March 2nd. Following this, I reported the incidents of sexual harassment and workplace bullying to the company on March 6th, received the results of the investigation on March 16th, and resigned on March 21st. I reported Executive A's unfair demands and harassing remarks as workplace bullying, backed by substantial evidence. Given Executive A's history of similar issues and his senior role within the industry, reporting him was intimidating. Nonetheless, I took the initial courageous step to address the threat with the organization, knowing I wasn't the only one affected by his behavior. Executive A consistently criticized and harassed both me and my team, often issuing oppressive work orders via Kakao Talk outside of work hours, which gradually eroded my self-esteem and personal life. Those who have suffered baseless bullying in the workplace will understand this pain. He issued non-urgent work orders through Kakao Talk even on weekends and holidays, contacting me early in the morning with painful admonishments. In a 40-minute conversation that was not recorded at Kakao Talk, he made problematic misogynistic remarks such as having a young woman at the table makes the atmosphere better than two men dining together. When I responded within a minute to a Saturday work order from him, I was reprimanded. Confused as to why I immediately answered his message given the few seconds between his text and a group message from CEO Minijin. I don't even understand what that's supposed to mean. I found his reprimands and criticisms to become incomprehensible, and I guess she thought the same. Next page. Furthermore, during overtime, he unexpectedly summoned me, demanding, "Since we need to evaluate you, what's your ambition in staying with the company?" Faced with this unexpected question, I said I'll prepare an answer, only to be berated under pressure for suggesting a prepared response. But only because I could not address my ambition right away, he said he has to rate me, failed. Okay. When I attempted to leave work around 8:30 p.m., I was asked to start a meeting in 30 minutes. I suggested starting immediately or conducting it remotely later, only to be shouted at, demanding, "Can you explain the entire project right now? How can we have a meeting straight away?" Insisting on starting 30 minutes later, I had to organize the entire project for the meeting that night and worked late as a result. It wasn't the work itself that was difficult, but rather dealing with such emotionally charged confrontations that were taxing. I failed to see how this can be dismissed as a simple misunderstanding between Executive A and me. Unfortunately, HYBE concluded that there was insufficient evidence of sexual harassment, but workplace bullying was inappropriate. Including the inappropriate dinner meeting, it was clear that Executive A's behavior was inappropriate. So they recommended to Minijin that stern warning measures be taken against him. I felt HYBE's response was overly lenient considering the suffering I endured, but I chose to let it go given my decision to leave the company. It has come to my attention recently that CEO Minijin actively defended Executive A from the day I reported the issue until after the investigation concluded. She engaged in excessive insults, branding me with derogatory terms like crazy bitch and insane to invalidate my report. Yep. And like feminist bitch, she said. Like insane mental illness, something like that. rather than verifying facts and addressing issues as a responsible leader should have. Her portrayal of me as an employee who left complaining without doing good work or making only nuisance is disheartening for someone who dedicated themselves to the company. Despite the circumstances, I hoped my departure would improve the situation for my colleagues, courageously sending messages to Minijin detailing Executive A's incompetence and bullying in hundreds of lines on March 21st. From Thursday, the day I resigned, until Saturday morning, I sincerely thought about the organization as I sent those messages. I understand the intent behind urging me to meet with Executive A post-resignation as an effort to mediate and encourage further cooperation. Yet, simply letting time pass without an apology does not erase past misdeeds. Number 2. Details regarding the incident. I would like to provide a more detailed explanation regarding this incident. It may be shocking, but the insults mentioned in the dispatch article were indeed directed at me during work. In Minijin's official statement, my report was misrepresented, and the context from March 6th to March 16th was cleverly edited, with certain details masked as work-related even though they weren't, mixing small lies to obscure the truth. Minijin's claim that her statements and materials are truthful and devoid of distortion or misconduct radically contrasts with her editing and public disclosure of my private messages, manipulating the overall context. It's profoundly shocking and hurtful to see someone who should understand my torment best using it in dishonest explanations. I'm disheartened by Minijin's insincere claims of neutrality and optimal mediation in her statements, especially since she pushed me to such extremes during my time at the company. In particular, ADOR had a break on February 15th, yet she claimed otherwise. She also fabricated principles like non-disclosure to the complainant, even though the report was immediately shared with her, allowing direct contact with me. The mixture of petty lies woven into her lengthy explanation is astonishing. The point that drove me to speak out despite staying silent was the sheer disappointment in Minijin resorting to the very manipulation and distortion she criticized, releasing my messages without consent. The claims that the dispatch article's insults were directed at someone else or that she twisted the context of my resignation for the public are disheartening. Yeah, she's referring to these statements that she came up with and these like screenshots that she posted on her Instagram, Minijin. It's unfair for her to deny wrongdoing towards someone she once worked with and to have not expressed any remorse or apology. Yeah, I cannot remember if there's any case when Minijin ever apologized. Everyone makes mistakes, and it is only right to acknowledge and apologize for them swiftly. 3. On Minijin's explanation. It seems likely that CEO Minijin might claim that KakaoTalk conversations between Executive A and herself were merely casual chats and that their disclosure is the real issue, meaning Minijin saying, is wrong of dispatch to release those KakaoTalk conversation screenshots in the first place. To this, I would like to ask her, without a word to me, Minijin published those KakaoTalk messages in her explanation, spreading distortions publicly. Even now, over a week later, there has been no apology or understanding extended to me from Minijin. So basically saying, Minijin was mad at Dispatch for releasing those KakaoTalk messages, but she did the same without, getting a consent from the employee B, right? The person B. Given the reasonable suspicion that intervention during the investigation stage may have influenced the outcome, for me, this matter is not something that occurred privately between the CEO and Executive A, but rather a professional, work-related issue. At ADOR, most work reports are conducted via KakaoTalk. So I view KakaoTalk conversations regarding company matters between the CEO and executives as effectively equivalent to communications via official work messengers or emails. And that was something that I thought was kind of weird because at HYBE, other labels all use Slack as a messenger app for work-related issues, but ADOR, for some reason, used KakaoTalk, right? Regarding the events between March 6th And 16th, can you truly claim, Minijin, that you acted neutrally and fairly as a company representative? Instead, Minijin shared the report details she received as CEO with the accused, Executive A, in real time, suggesting and reviewing his objections, clearly taking sides with Executive A. And she, in fact, revised a statement that Executive A was supposed to write and submit to HYBE, right? And the executive accepted all the revisions that she did for him. There is doubt whether a proper investigation was ever possible, given the environment where the report was buried and the complainant was insulted from the start by both CEO and executive. In cases of sexual harassment or workplace bullying, it is basic common sense to separate the complainant and the accused. Yet, requests were made to create an oppressive environment with Minijin, Executive A, and me in a three-way meeting, or even adding HR or client for a four-way meeting, pressuring the complainant. At the time, I was stressed by the tense atmosphere whenever left in the room with Executive A and officially requested a separate environment. Hearing such statements during such circumstances left me devastated. Although I tried to understand, the current situation remains unfathomable. Minijin trampled and insulted me with terms like crazy bitch, psycho, insane, and deserving. 인실존, meaning life, like the reality is harsh, bitch, something like that. 인실은 실존이야, 많아. While encouraging Executive A to hire a lawyer to press a false accusation lawsuit, employing her power to invalidate my report through various means. Therefore, I must again ask if Min's statements in her explanation about taking a neutral stance as a company representative and acting appropriately as a mediator truly reflect her actions. In her narrative, I was cast as someone deserving of such insults, viewed not as a victim of Executive A's actions, but as an incompetent leaving to ruin others, a being deserving of divine retribution. Yet, I was merely a member of ADOR, performing her duties diligently, aiming to be an asset to the organization. I was awaiting a sincere apology from Minijin and Executive A. I hope not to witness another instance of missing the point as happened before. Please correct the known inaccuracies. Specifically, if you claim that even my statement is edited and false, I will take additional action to clearly reveal the truth. So, she, the former employee, made that statement through this post, right? And if Minijin separately called her or sent an email or sent her messages and apologized, then things would have been fine, right? Things wouldn't have led to legal cases, legal conflicts. But instead, according to the former employee who made an update later on, Minijin did contact her, but said, "Are you part of HYBE?" Because Minijin thought that HYBE like hired her or made her to make such bold statements against her in the midst of all the controversies that have been going on around Minijin and HYBE, right? And that eventually made the former employee even angrier, right? And of course, Minijin came up with another statement, right? This time through McCall Consulting, which I mentioned in the previous video. Again, super long, 18-page statements. In a lot of cases, I would love to hear from both sides, and I did read the full article, full statements, and I usually put them both in a single video, but honestly, I could not really stand reading her statements. And I mean, on the one hand, it is true that it's understandable that the former employee would narrate the whole issue from her own perspectives and leave out some things that would have that would have made like unfavorable impacts on her, right? Leaving out details that could make it look like, she was overacting. But the thing is, I saw one of the users commenting on my video that I'm like biased for addressing her as the victim. But isn't it what we're supposed to do? Like listen to the alleged victim's voice when it comes to like workplace bullying and sexual harassment? And isn't that what all the politicians did when Honey claimed to be a victim, right? For saying that eyelid manager, eyelid staff said ignore her to her when according to that staff, that never happened in the first place. So for now, I would rather be more willing to listen to former ADOR employees' voice, right? Although I did read the 18-page document or 18-page statement that Minigen released back in August, I decided not to include this in this video. If you're interested though, I'll attach the link to this article, so go check it out. But after Minigen came up with this statement through McCall Consulting, where she revealed more details, like more personal details about the employee came up with another series of statements, which is this. Second statement, released on August 19th. I am B, a former employee of ADOR who is genuinely outraged by CEO Minigen's continuous false claims and damaging statements filled with new defamations, resulting in ongoing harm. Her statements that selectively address issues without mentioning her breach of neutrality as a CEO, her vile insults towards me, or her deceitful behavior are exactly as I anticipated. Attempts to bury the core issues and deflect the conversation. I urge you to clarify and apologize specifically for the 3 points I outlined at the end of my previous statements. I will critically address her attempts to deflect and the unfounded claims about my performance. Oh, by the way, in her statements, in her clarification statement, Minigen not only revealed like how much the former employee got paid as a salary, but also said something like, she sounded very like HYBE executives when she sent an email to her, meaning she tried to label the victim, the former employee, as a spy, hired by HYBE. And she even said something like, 피해자는 스스로 주장한다고 생기는 개념이 아닙니다. You cannot be a victim just because you insist so. The concept of a victim is not something that arises just by asserting it. If that's the case, then everyone in the world becomes a victim for their own reasons. I guess in one sense, she's right when it comes to like Honey, for example, who went all the way to the National Assembly audit to voice her opinions, to raise her voice, just because she asserted that she's a victim. That was interesting. Anyways, let's go back to the employee statements. All right. Number one, regarding the claim that the case was closed without charges and that she was not biased. CEO Minigen stated, upon receiving B's contact after the investigation concluded and as a resignation was taking place, I felt a chill but wanted to hear B's side. Since the case was concluded, there was no necessity from my perspective to do so. Minigen, what do you mean by there was no necessity? It is within your duty and responsibility as the CEO of ADOR, where I worked, to investigate and process incidents of internal bullying and sexual harassment. You could delegate the investigation process to HYBE HR, but you, as the CEO, are legally and procedurally the final decision maker for disciplinary actions regarding ADOR employees. Thus, neutrality and mediation as a CEO is a legal obligation from the beginning, exactly what you are paid a high salary to do. Furthermore, please explain your efforts to have Executive A acquitted and your refusal to even issue a warning, despite being the final decision maker in this matter. Why do you keep pretending ignorance about your decision to shield Executive A from even a warning, claiming it was not within your remit? Based on labor law, I will legally respond to any inappropriate handling of workplace bullying reports. 2. Regarding the claim of retaliatory false reports, can you specify what falsehood occurs in my report? Minijin, stop spreading falsehoods and deflecting the issue. I've reported 7 instances of workplace bullying and 1 of sexual harassment, each backed with ample evidence. In particular, concerning the most contentious harassment report, Executive A already admitted wrong and apologized in KakaoTalk messages with you. There are no false claims within my report. HYBE intends to reinvestigate, and I have submitted 11 additional reports and evidence. I will also seek assistance from external agencies beyond HYBE. For clarity, I have attached my full report text as you seem confused about the details. And yes, HYBE has conducted the full-scale investigation in collaboration with external agencies. We haven't heard about the conclusions though. Number 3, about public disclosure of salary and the 40% pay cut, massive sale of salary. Minijin said, the high salary offered to B was decided by me, a fellow woman. 40% reduction. Disclosing an employee's salary and arbitrarily cutting it by 40%, then publicly stating the reason without my consent are illegal acts. Minijin's response in her statement is unsurprising as it matches my expectations, but her actions of carelessly discussing and publicly disclosing my salary, subsequent unilateral reduction, and even the reasons behind such reductions are not only legally offensive, but astonishingly rude and arrogant. Throughout my career, I have always strived to give my best and have consistently received high evaluations in every place I have worked. 3 years ago, even without incentives, I earned more than at ADOR, receiving similar offers from other companies. Let me also address the pay cut. Arbitrarily reducing an employee's salary without following legal disciplinary procedures or prior notice is illegal. Even within the legal confines for a pay reduction, post-disciplinary action, statutory limits exist. A nearly 50% salary reduction clearly signifies an attempt to coerce resignation. As a side note, I have done some research into this employee. I'm not going to reveal any of her personal details in this video, but based on her writing, like even before she got hired at ADOR, like what she has written and said on her personal blogs, yeah, she does seem a very capable person, right? And you know, for those who are saying that she's affiliated with HYBE, still, that's just a baseless claim, right? She's now working at a separate company, doing her own things. And I just feel really, pity. I mean, sad that the fact that she has to, deal with all these stuff on her own, because like being in court and dealing with like court cases is really a pain in the butt. It costs a lot and it costs your time and efforts. Anyways, let's move on. Number 4, assessment of job performance and probation completion. CEO Minijin, due to these issues, the evaluation at the end of B's probation was not favorable. There was a consensus among executives that continued employment would be difficult. 5 people participated in my 6-month probation evaluation, and except for Executive A, whom I worked with for only a month, all evaluation results were strongly recommended or recommended. Executive A was the only one who gave not recommended, the worst evaluation possible. Why distort documented evidence? And yes, she revealed the actual evaluations in her interview with Chosun, 월간 Chosun, back in August. So as you can see, former VP, gave 1.7 and said not recommended in her evaluation of the employee. Moreover, CEO Minijin mostly worked from home, rarely coming into the office. Yeah, and she didn't attend her own court like cases either, right? She's all about that work from home environments. Came to the office 3 times over 6 months to be specific. Wow. Okay. Flexible work environments. Despite being under her direct staff, I only saw her a few times, usually during brief meetings with external parties. I wonder what she does at home though. How can a CEO, detached from the day-to-day dynamics of where employees work, unbiasedly evaluate each staff member's performance? Clearly, this is not possible. If I was truly incompetent, why do countless former colleagues empathize with my situation and offer support? Would ADOR's clients send messages of encouragement against Minnie Jin, siding with someone allegedly incompetent out of mere revenge? You painted me as a team leader, but when was I ever entrusted with such authority? I was a simple staff member without subordinates. I faced constant abusive reprimands, accused of inappropriate conduct for simply arranging lunch with key clients ADOR needed. The leader of ADOR's business team held another title, and it was me. I find it laughable that your critiques of my skills culminate in citing typos and unfamiliarity with work. That supposedly justifies a 40% pay cut enduring harassment. This reduction and the expectation that I accept such bullying with silence are absurd. The core issue is Minnie Jin's concealment of workplace harassment, lies, public deception through manipulated context, and unauthorized KakaoTalk disclosures. Despite her verbose explanations, which deviate from the essence, I have responded to significant portions. Please stop with selective explanations and answer my questions. As a CEO, during the investigation of my workplace harassment and sexual harassment claims on March 15th, did you talk with the accused Executive A, insulting me with terms like psycho, insane person, or bitch, and support Executive A? So she's demanding an apology, right? Is such behavior a neutral stance deserving of a CEO while processing my harassment and bullying report? In fact, she even revised the Executive A's statements that he is supposed to submit to HYBE on his behalf, right? On July 31st, when you publicly disclosed my KakaoTalk messages to clarify suspicions about you, did you ever apologize or seek consent from me? The answer is no. My performance, salary amounts, or Executive A's wrongdoings are not the main issues. If Executive A challenges my claims, does it instantly invalidate my reports as false without warranting investigation? Is it acceptable for the world to know me as an incompetent employee making false accusations out of revenge? And that's exactly what that's exactly how some people commented on her Instagram, those who support Minnie Jin, unfortunately. All I sought was for falsehoods to be corrected and a public apology. I did not demand your resignation as CEO, surrender at a police station, or any money. She's damn right. However, you can't offer a simple apology which powerless employees resort to, hanging their heads in regret through countless apologies. Instead, as if flexing terms like low performance and citing salary reductions, indeed forcing it, how many employees would voluntarily accept a 40% salary cut? Now you brought us to this juncture. We will meet at the court and the Labor Department soon. I urge you, as confidently claimed, to pursue me for false accusations. If you know the meaning of shame, refrain from speaking publicly to audiences. But Minnie Jin still decided to speak at the forum, right, as an instructor. The event hosted by, what was it? Hyundai Card, right? All right, here's the last page. My questions from the first statement. Did you coach the perpetrator, Executive A, while hurling profanities at me behind my back? The answer is yes. During the investigation, did you interfere by asserting that Executive A was innocent without maintaining neutrality? The answer is yes for that also. In fact, Minnie Jin asked HYBE HR department to send the employees Slack conversations with the VP and saying that I need to teach her a lesson. Are there any punishments for those who make like false reports like this. If not, we need to establish a new system so that there will be no false reports being submitted like this. So trying to label the victim as a perpetrator, right? Why did you disclose our KakaoTalk conversations without my permission and distort various facts, including the reason for my resignation? Yeah, I feel like, we now understand what kind of person Minijin is, right? But she should have at least like asked, the employee if she's able to, if she can, like publicly disclose the private KakaoTalk conversations, right? In fact, a few months ago, I asked this former employee for a permission if I can cover this issue on my channel, right? And like talk about these messages that she posted on her Instagram, even though these messages are already public. And she said yes, which is why I'm covering this, even though I wasn't able to do so for several months because the issue is quite sensitive and not an exciting topic at all to talk about. But I wanted to do this because a couple days ago we had a court update, right? Anyways, explanation by Minijin. Your salary of 130 million won is too high. I was planning to cut it by 40%. That's what Minijin said, right? This is illegal behavior and a boast. You didn't perform well at work. That's what Minijin said. Everyone except Executive A, who worked for only a month, rated me as highly recommended and recommended. Okay, so these things are what Minijin said to the former employee after the incident broke out, right? So she privately contacted the former employee saying that, no, HYBE, are you part of HYBE? Like, are you getting hired by HYBE to do these things? And these are the things that she said. You didn't perform well at work. Your salary of 130 million won is too high. I was planning to cut it by 40%. You seem to have made a false report and it's scary. The Executive A admitted his fault on his workplace bullying and also apologized right after the first statement, while you were pressing me with 77 KakaoTalk messages with no apologies. In fact, according to this former employee, HYBE apologized to her as well, right, about the whole unfortunate case. But funny thing is that the very executive, the former VP, took back his apology, according to this employee, saying that I am the one getting harassed. That's what that former executive said, and took back his own apology that he has said to her. That's hilarious. The investigation concluded with a no charge. I mediated. The CEO responsible for handling workplace harassment coached them to ruin the reporter's life and rejected even the strict warning suggested by HYBE for the perpetrator. Are you with HYBE? No, I am not. Are you HYBE? No. So there you go. That was a translation of these slides that the former employee posted on her Instagram. Again, these are her own voices, right? So naturally, we're getting her perspective, the former employee's perspective. So, we need to hear from the court whether what she said is indeed true. But for now, I'm willing to listen to her, right? But if you are interested about what Minijin had to say about the whole situation, yeah, I will attach a link to this article. This one. Okay? Alright. If there are any new updates about this issue, I'll cover it on my channel now that I have finally touched upon this case. And when you comment, please discuss with, let's stay positive, respectful, and classy, as always. Thank you guys. Peace and love. Bye-bye.